Are you planning on migrating to Europe? Are you new in Europe? Or are you still finding yourself around? Stick around, I've got tips for you. Hey, this is Cynthia on the Hakuna Matata Talk, and welcome back to one of our videos. So, last week I posted a video about life in the diaspora. I posted a video about what really happens in the diaspora, the untold truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you didn't watch the video, or if you haven't watched the video, please go back and watch it. It's on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. You'll find it there. So I received a lot of comments. I received a lot of questions from different people and questions that I was asked, and that is, how can one prepare themselves, to have a reasonable job or to have a good job here in Europe? Or what can one do, to find a reasonable job? That's what we'll be talking about today. I have tips that I'll give today, like tips that worked for me. Like I always say, I'm not an expert at this thing. I only talk about the experience that I have as a person, things that I've experienced myself, or things basically things that I've experienced. So the tips I'll give are the tips that have worked for me. Okay, so I've also been in the same procedure, so I'll share the tips that have worked for me. It's important that in the beginning of your settlement that you get the right information, you get the right advice, and most importantly, the right people around you. You know why? Because most of the time, the people we associate with in the beginning, when we're still finding the way around, the beginning of our settlement, the people we associate with the most play a very big role in terms of decisions and choices that the new people make. Because, these are people who have been here 10, 20 years, some even 30 years. So we tend to believe, or the new people tend to believe that, which is also in most cases should make sense. They tend to think or believe that these people know everything, know the right things to do and the right choices to make and the whole system, you know what I mean? So that's what happens. And unfortunately, some people get misled. The new people get misled. They get misled. They are told different kinds of information. They receive different kind of information, and the information is not always correct, and they're advised to do certain things in a certain way. Some don't even get a chance to discover who they are in the beginning, but they listen to the people who are the experienced people, and they end up being misled. Okay, so it's very important to know what you want yourself as a person. So the first tip that I will give, is once you are in Europe, or when you come to stay in Europe, please, it's important, it's very, very important that you invest in the language. So if you're making a life here, if you choose to make a life here, so it's important you learn the language, you invest in the language. And guess what happens? In most cases, like in Belgium, the first year, the chance is high, or most people follow the course for free. The language course is for free. The language courses are most of the time for free. So why not use that opportunity? I know when we come here, we have this idea of making money, of working and having money and this. But then we forget the fact that we have come here for the longest time. We have come here to make a life here. So in my opinion, we all want, who doesn't want money? We all want the money part, okay? But you need to prepare yourself for that. You need to prepare yourself for the life that you choose to live here. So invest in the language. And why do I say that? Once you learn the language, how best can I say it? In these countries, language is the master key. It is the master key to everything. When you can speak the language, trust me, it is the master key. You will go everywhere you want. You will do whatever you want. Finding a job will not be a problem, because jobs, like I said, jobs are there. Like I said in the previous videos, jobs are there. But what jobs? That's the question. The question remains, what jobs? What jobs are there? Okay, yes, we want money. Yes, we want, but how about in the next 10 years? What kind of life do we want to live in the next 20 years? Where will we be? That's what I mean. Invest in the language, and that is the number one master key. I'll give you examples. I have seen people like who have been here for a long time, like so many years, but they don't speak the language. And guess what happens? And these are very smart people. But they don't learn the language because they come here, go fast to work, and then they forget about the language. And then it's, before you know, it's 5 years, before you know, it's 10 years. You still haven't learned the language. You just know the basic, words and stuff. But what happens to these people? Like, when you can't speak the language here, time comes that you lose your confidence. I've seen smart people like lose their confidence. I mean, this is what I mean. Imagine if you can't enter in an office and introduce yourself, or like talk about yourself, or you can't enter anywhere in the office and say anything about yourself in the language. I mean, so where will you get the confidence? When you go anywhere and you've been here 10, 15 years, they expect you to be speaking the language. So the people who, when you lose your job and you have to find a new job, and you enter in an office and you can't express yourself in the language. So, I mean, if you don't have confidence, you lose a lot of chances. You can all agree with me. And then another thing that I can share with you that is related to the language, or to not learning the language. I have seen parents in a helpless situation, like helpless. What do I mean by this? I've seen parents come or go to offices, or even to me, I've seen parents like come to me who I don't speak their language, and they come with their child to translate for them. And they come with a child who is 10 years. Imagine a child of 10 years old translating for her mother or father. 10 years, sometimes 8. And you see like the parent is really helpless. They don't know what to do. It's these kids, because when the kids are born here, when they come at a very young age, kids learn the language quick. In 1 year, 2 years, they speak fluently. So you find like a parent relying on an 8-year-old child, on a 10-year-old child, 12 years, to translate for him or for her, or to read the letters that they receive at home. I call that really a helpless situation. And what happens? It affects the kids because they become adults when they are still young. They start making their own decisions. After all, you don't understand the language. After all, you can't read the letters. So what happens? They start like lying also, because what happens at school, what they are going to do, you know what I mean. Because the parents can't do that themselves. So please, invest in the language. Don't skip that level. Let me tell you, in this process of settling, of integrating, of the whole process, any stage you skip catches up with you. Trust me. Any stage you skip, it's step by step. Any stage you skip, at some point it catches up with you. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is, after you've invested in the language, or during the process of investing in the language or learning the language, identify the sector you'd like to work in, or identify the sector that interests you. Where do you like to work? Do you like working with kids? Do you like working in health sector? Do you like working in school? Do you like working in the office, like doing administration work? Do you like doing sales? You know what I mean? Or do you like building? Do you like painting? Whatever you like, what sector would you like to work in construction? Or, name it. Identify the sector you would like to work in. And after identify what your interests. What kind of work, what kind of job do you see yourself doing in 10 years, 15 years from now? What is that one thing you see yourself doing? Once you identify that, it helps you knowing how and where to look for a job, not just looking for any job. You know what I mean? Once you identify what you need, that helps you, to find your way easily. I'll give you an example of why it's also important to identify the sector you want to work in, or your interests. So I met someone not long ago. Actually met this person even after I have had posted the video last week. This week I met someone and we were talking, and somehow it came up, and she mentioned that she's following language courses. So I asked her, what level are you? And she mentions that she's in the beginning levels. And I asked her, for how long have you been here? And she tells me she's been here 8 years. I told her, 8 years, you're in the first level of the language? She says, yes. I asked, how come? Then she tells me the story, you know, when I came, I wanted to make money, and I got a job, and I was working, and then I got a child, and then it was about money, and now I did the same job for 5 years, but that's not my thing. I don't like that job. I'm depressed. I'm stressed. Now I'm going back to learn the language, and I would want, after learning the language, I study something and of something that I like. So imagine 8 years lost, you go back to zero. You remember what I said in the last video, that for some people it takes them 1 year, 2 years, 5 years to find their way. So imagine 8 years, you're still finding your way, you're still not happy. That's what I mean. Okay, identify, or to know what interests you, or to know the kind of which sector you'd like to work in the beginning. This helps you to know, okay, this is what I like to do, this is the sector I would like to work in. So when I'm looking for jobs, I'll for sure look around this sector or in this sector. Okay, that's my tip number 2. So now we go to tip number 3. Once you have identified the sector, you know, like what interests you, where would you like to work, where do you see yourself working, if you can follow a course. If you can follow a course, you know, it can be a 4-month course, it can be a 6-month course, it can be a 1-year course, but follow a course. Because you know why? And here it's there are so many opportunities here to study. There are so many opportunities to do short courses or long courses, it doesn't matter, but the opportunities are there. And once you know, and also most courses are for free. Like in Belgium, I'll give an example. Most courses are for free. There are so many courses that you can study for free, up to a year, 2 years, for free. The government pays for you. And this you don't find everywhere, but in Belgium, they are there. So many. You have to look at the bigger picture, like where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you see yourself in 20 years, in 30 years? I mean, like I said, we come here for the longest time. We come here to make a life. So what kind of a life do we want to make here? You have to prepare for that. And one way of preparing for it is by at least studying something. It doesn't matter how short the course is, but it carries a lot of weight. If you have studied anything from here, it carries a lot of weight. I'm not talking about expatriates or those high-end jobs. No, I'm talking about normal jobs, like middle-class jobs or whatever. You have to have like something from here. You've studied from here. When I watch interviews of people who like are migrants in Europe, most of them, when they are asked, oh, why did you come to Europe, or why are you in Europe, why did you leave your country to come here, most of them answer, who are looking for a good life, or for, you know, for greener pastures, or for a better whatever. So the question is, are you living that good life? You know, and what is that good life? For me, it's, you have to live that good life every day. Like simple, like doing the job you like, coming home and you're from work, but you feel happy about it. Not coming home when your back is already broken and when you can't do anything anymore, and you have to put your feet in an ice cold bucket to cool them down because you've worked so much, you know. And like, also we have to be realistic. Let's say we come here in the beginning and we get jobs. Like I said, there are so many jobs. When you come, you can get a job immediately. But for how long, or up to what age can you do that job? Can you do that job, let's say you're 25. Do you see yourself doing the same job at 35? What about at 40? What about at 50? So what will you do? Have you planned for that? What I mean by looking far and planning and preparing for that good life and preparing to have that good job and a comfortable life. So I hope my tips help you. In the beginning, I said that these are the tips that worked for me, okay? These are tips that worked for me, and I'll tell you why. I'll share my experience, like shortly. I'll share my experience. So what happened when I came here, I had experience in sales, marketing, and public relations, you know, and I was lucky. I got a job in a hotel, and I could work in English. So I worked there for 1 month. And in that 1 month, I realized that that was not my thing. And I was like, no, this is not my thing. They're working in a hotel. No, this is not my thing. So I didn't stay there long. Like I said, I worked there for 1 month. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? I was still learning the language. I didn't know what to do. And so I was still looking for, like stable jobs. And then I got a job. And it was, I had a contract for 1 year. I enjoyed that job. 6 months in the job, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I think even 6 months is long. 2 months. I was like, this is my kind of job. This is what I like to do. This is what I want to do. Guess what? Before my contract ended, I started like finding out and looking around, what can I do like to stay in this line of work? What do I need to know? What do I need to study? What course can I do? Because I like doing this. What can I do? So I knew what I had to study. I knew the course I had to do. Before my contract ended, I had already registered myself in a school. I did my course, graduated, and trust me, it paid off. Okay, it might not be easy, but it in the long run. And like I said, when you have studied something, and when you speak the language, like, you don't have to worry, oh, if I lose my job, what will I do? Or if something happens, what happens to me? Because if you're confident, you can find a job anywhere, you can find another job, you're secure. You have that security to say, okay, I know I have experience in this, I know I've studied this, so if this job doesn't work out, I'll find a job somewhere else. Okay, so I hope my tips will help, and I hope you guys will apply them if you can. You're not obliged, but I just said, let me answer this question and let me share my tips. And that was it for today. And please, thanks for watching again. Bye bye. See you next time.